Good evening, Des Moines. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program here at the webcast1live.com studios in the honeycomb maze that is the Skywalk. I always call it the Ped Mall because I'm an Iowa City graduate, and I gotta say, before we get too much further, I'm going to introduce my cohort and my always dashing Dr. Patrick Bertroche. Doc, what's up?
I am always dashing. Now, we've had a pretty exciting week in local politics. I don't know if you read the paper today, but Brad Zahn joined four other senators to berate the governor for cutting off mental health funding.
I did not read that.
Yep. And then we had Doug Gross taking on Steve King, which I just think it's idiocy. You know, I do like Doug Gross. He makes a lot of good points, but I don't think this is a fight one, that you should make public, and two, you should even have. And then, of course, we have the looming government shutdown that we're all excited about.
Like a specter rising from the ashes of the Newt Gingrich speakership from 1996.
That's right.
But before we get into all that, though, I wanted to make one comment really quick. 59-3, the mighty Iowa Hawkeyes against the lowly Western Missouri Broncos. Now, I'm not going to brag about the football team because as early as 4 weeks ago, I was complaining that they were going to struggle to win 4 games. But I got to tell you, it has been a long time since I've seen the Hawkeyes dominate a team, another football team, the way that my beloved Iowa Hawkeyes did this past Saturday. We tend to not play to our potential and play with any kind of consistency, and I thought that we did so on both sides of the ball. 2 interceptions that led to touchdowns, 2 punt returns that went to touchdowns. It was just awesome. Up one side, down the other. Now, Doc, I know that you are not as fervent of a Hawkeye lover as myself. In fact, I'm not sure that you care too much one way or the other about them, but I just had to get that off my chest.
Well, it was great. I root for all Iowa teams. But if they're playing each other, this is the order in which I root for them. Mm-hmm. I root for the Panthers, number 1, Hawkeyes, number 2, and ISU, number 3.
I appreciate that.
And it's not anything against ISU. It's just, I have a family full of people that went to Iowa, mm-hmm. and my son and my future daughter-in-law are going to Iowa now. And I have a nephew going to University of Iowa. I've always enjoyed the Panthers. I think for such a small school, they really can put together a football program.
They're bringing it. They've been bringing it the last few years.
And, and the way they made all those mistakes against ISU, and ISU played almost a perfect game, and they still pounded them pretty good. The Panthers pounded the ISU. I think they're going to be able to even beat Iowa this year.
I don't think. They don't play them this year, but
I wish they did.
But it's a good time, and I was overjoyed to see us beat a team that we're supposed to beat by the margin we're supposed to beat them. Okay, so what do you want to talk about first?
First of all, Ryan, get the meme up here so Lefty can see it. Now, there is a factual error in there. Which one is it? I want to know if Lefty can point that out. Can our listeners point that out?
A factual error.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm not sure. I would assume that drug cartels aren't left-handed, like ever.
No, it would be the Obama phone guy, because it's really not an Obama phone. It's a program started under Bush, but the rest of it's pretty accurate.
Well, so's the drug cartel.
Yeah, the drug cartel here. You got
that was a program started under Bush, and actually, so are the terrorists.
The actual Obama gun that was given to the drug cartels was not a program started under Bush.
Fast and Furious was started under Bush, but that's okay.
But they changed all the rules and regulations for Obama, and we never gave guns. The Bush never gave guns to the cartels.
That's what he did. I mean, he let him walk over in a law enforcement action started by his attorney general 4 years before.
He didn't give them guns. He didn't do that. There's operations like that, but he just didn't go, well, here's 500,000 guns. Anyway, I thought that was funny. The second thing, we're going to take a survey here on Facebook. We're going to let it run for a couple of days. Now, everybody wants to know why I'm growing my hair and all that stuff. And in part, I had this reality show, and I filmed it. It's in the can. Now we're marketing it. But the other reason, every so often I grow my hair out long like this, and then I shave it off for Locks for Love. So the question is going to be, do I shave my head, give it all the locks of love, cut my hair just to the minimum of 7 inches and give it to Locks of Love? And the third question really is going to be, what should I do with my beard? I like my beard. I put beads in it, but then people look at me weird. So I'm going to leave it up to the audience.
I personally miss the clean shaven Dr. The Petrosh that I met several years ago. I missed that because for a couple reasons. One, I think you look super handsome when you don't have a beard. Well, and two, it's a lot easier to pick you out as a narcissistic fascist Republican when you're completely clean shaven. Just kidding.
Because we all know Nazis were started by socialists.
They're not Republicans aren't narcissistic. They just have a complete and total inferiority complex. And
and I would agree with that. Right now, they got this inferiority complex that is doing nothing but shooting themselves in all kinds of different body parts. Every time I turn around, we're bleeding from somewhere else.
And we're going to talk about the government shutdown issue in a few minutes. But one of the things that I heard from somebody that I thought that you would really enjoy over the weekend was this whole fight over the over Obamacare and defunding, and whether they're going to fund the government at the end of the fiscal year, and whether they're going to allow the government to shut down, and who's going to blink first, and all that stuff. Somebody said, obviously, a supporter of the administration said, it seems like what we have here is the Republican Party saying, hey, do what we want. And they're holding the gun on the administration. They're holding the gun on the administration saying, hey, do what we want, or we swear to God, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot.
And I would buy that 100% because we've talked several times about, the schisms within the Republican Party. And the problem is these schisms have been there even before Reagan. Now, Reagan just happened to swing in a bunch of Christians, and not even necessarily Christian conservatives, but a lot of Christians. And the problem is they have coalesced into this very staunch Christian conservative coalition whose main goal is not necessarily fiscal, but social. And you can't, I'm a big believer in not doing social experimentation. Don't try to engineer your society. Let your society organize itself and bring itself forward. It's worked really well for those countries that have done that. Those that really put the kibosh on it, you really get a lot of reduction in productivity and reduction in creativity. So I'm not really one of these big fans of social engineering. I do believe a lot of things should not be legislated. And the problem is if you're a right winger yelling at the left wing about legislating all these things, you ask for the same thing. It's not going to work. It looks hypocritical, and people can't trust you. And so that's one of the schisms, and we'll talk about that during the next segment.
Yeah.
Right now, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back right after the commercials. Please try to patronize these people. They support our studio and keep us operating. Allows us to sit here in a nice, cool, or in the winter, heated studio. We'll be back right after the break. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Doc and Lefty program on webcast1live.com. We want to thank our sponsor of the studio, as Doc said before the beginning of the segment. Now, Doc, we're going to talk about a number of things today, but it sounds like you kind of want to start off a little bit with some of the stuff that's going on nationally. And I wanted to take a little bit of a different tack on the funding of the government issue and whether or not we're going to shut down and all that kind of stuff, because it seems like you and I are we're not on the same page with respect to the outcomes, but I think that we're on the same page in the idea that the tactics are kind of flawed. And what I mean by that is I personally think that, in not taking a partisan stance on this one way or the other, that the Republicans are in the weaker position in this case and will be blamed by the American people if they, through their sort of their avarice, they allow the government to shut down. What are your thoughts about that? Is that kind of how you see it too?
Well, I think you know what, this is my take on it. The Republican Congress has finally done what it's supposed to do. Lefty has said on this show more than once, listen, the Congress, the House of Representatives are the ones with the purse strings. All they have to do is pass that bill and make the Senate vote on it, and it will call out all the people that are just in there trying to line their pockets on the Republican side, and it's good ammunition to feed back to the Senate. And if you do that, the 40 times or whatever it is now, say, we passed it, Senate didn't, here are the Republicans that didn't, here are the Democrats that didn't, here's our reasonable plan. I think it would have worked back then. But what you had, and I think this is what Lefty is trying to point out, what you had is a bunch of people just trying to go through the motions to cover their base. And then you really had the administration, so to speak, of the Republican Party putting the kibosh on it. John Boehner especially. And I think, from my perspective, I probably would have done this sooner. I would have made sure I had an alternative plan in the thing like they do this time. And I think the right tactic was to hook it to funding of the rest of the government, right? I like the fact that they separated that out, right? But I would have hooked it in there together to make people vote. Say, how are you going to vote? And then hang them with it. We just had elections. If they'd have done this before the elections, maybe it would have gone. What do you think? What do you think now? Lefty and I agree that we think the president's in the catbird seat right now. Mm-hmm. But what would you have done had you been a Republican in the House?
Well, you're right. If you don't like a piece of legislation, you can vote against it. Or if you don't like if you're in the House of Representatives, where these things are supposed to start as far as funding and implementation are concerned, that's your prerogative. And you're right. I have said many times that when it comes to money issues, it starts like the House can pass a bill and the Senate can pass a bill in ordinary order and the president can veto it. What you saw, though, in the 41 or 42 times or whatever it happened to be, was the House Republicans, who are in control and can do whatever they want. There is no filibuster in the House of Representatives. If you are in the majority, you have all of the power, 100% all the time. The Democrats just kind of sit there twiddling their thumbs and voting however they feel like it, because they're not going to control anything anyway. They voted to not defund or anything like that. They voted to repeal it. They said the Affordable Care Act this vote is a law amending the Affordable Care Act, and we're going to repeal it. Now, say that in the ordinary course that had gone through and had gone to the Senate, where it would not have passed because the Democrats had the control. But in a weird world, let's say that it had passed somehow and the president vetoes it. That was obviously going to happen. It's the president's signature piece of legislation. Like it or lump it, love it or hate it, this is the president's signature piece of legislation. There was no way that through legislation this was ever going to be repealed. So why keep doing it? It was political theater is really all it was. And it just took up oxygen in the government that could, in the House of Representatives, that could have been used for other things, more productive things like crafting an alternative plan to couple that with a defund vote right from the get-go. Did they do that? No, they kicked and screamed and acted like children, in my opinion.
Well, and I'm whether they kicked and screamed and acted like children is a debate for in between the segments
at our child welfare podcast that comes out every Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
But Lefty hit it right on the head. And really what this shows is a lack of leadership in the Republican Party. Reince Priebus really inherited a mess, and he's done what he can, but there's only so much you can do with the various factions fighting it out.
And that was kind of the tack that I wanted to take on this, because we talk all the time about the Republican Party is just, it seems fundamentally like it seems like a tree that's been struck by lightning that has the two sides that aren't completely dead. Like they each have the shoots, but the main tree is pretty much dead. You know, kind of follow me on that one. That's a weird metaphor, but so both halves of the tree can kind of grow a little bit on their own, but what made it a strong tree is no longer viable. That's what it seems like to me, because you and I went to a lot of the social, quote unquote, social conservative events. Now they hate that term. And they hate the fact that we would differentiate between social conservatives and fiscal conservatives, because as we heard from Steve King and Rick Santorum and a bunch of other speakers, the social and the fiscal are tied 100%. Now, I don't want to make any comments about my own view on whether I think that argument makes any sense at all, but does it alienate the others in the conservative? Because the liberals aren't paying attention to that. Others in the conservative movement, when you hear these social, quote unquote, social conservatives say, we need to do what's best for our culture, or what's from a religious standpoint, and then the fiscal stuff will follow afterwards because we're right with God. I'm not trying to make anybody. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Now we're going to take a break because that's going to segue right into my next point.
Oh, good.
So we're going to be right back right after the break.
I planned it that way.
Yeah. Listen to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com. What he actually planned was to ask me some kind of gotcha question in about 20 seconds. So be back right after the break.
Will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks a lot to Bertroche and Associates for sponsoring the program. Now, Doc, before the break, I had kind of teed up your perspective on this social conservative, fiscal conservative split that seems to be at the heart of this. And I kind of wonder if there's a little bit of codependent snobbery going on between the two sides, where you have the quote, and I'm not trying to put anybody down here, but the social
by using the term snobbery, that shouldn't offend anybody.
No, towards each other. Towards each other, not.
Well, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Not, and so you have the quote unquote social conservatives over here making their point. The fiscal conservatives saying, yeah, that's nice, and kind of brushing them, dismissing them, and that makes the social conservatives come back, and they just go back and forth in this sort of codependent shaming kind of thing.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I point out that several other people that are prominent Republicans point out routinely. Newt Gingrich and Doug Gross, Ronald Reagan, Speaker of the House, the Republican Speaker of the House under Bush. Who was that?
Oh,
I can't remember.
You mean Denny Hastert?
Denny Hastert. All right.
And Tom DeLay. No, he was the leader. Never mind.
Yeah.
Denny Hastert. Yep.
Yep. So all of these people have made the same points publicly. And that is, we have done more for the social conservatives. I mean, being the fiscal conservatives, by focusing on job growth, the economy, lowering taxes, than anything getting out there and saying, we want traditional marriage. We want to protect babies, right? Well, because the bottom line is the Democrats, they want to protect babies too. They just want to protect them when they're out of the womb instead of when they're in the womb. And, they want and this is how they're framing it. The truth of the matter always lies somewhere out there, but how the liberals frame it is, we want to grant everybody the right to own property, to not to have to go through, to be denied care at the end of life by their loved ones because their family objects to their lifestyle, and it's one of those things that the social issues are so personal that people that have an issue are going to automatically go to either side of the debate. There's not going to be a lot of compromise. There's not going to be a lot of talk. When I ran for Congress, I had this entire thing spelled out step by step by step about I am pro-life. I believe in life begins at conception. This is how I think we should get them back together. I can't tell you how many conservatives said, well, you're just a baby killer like the rest of them. Well, I'm not a baby killer. Mm-hmm. I just think that you need to start where everybody agrees and then start pushing back to get it where it's supposed to go. Steve Deace doesn't agree with that. He just attacks anybody that doesn't agree with the way he does. Kim Pierce is the same way. And I'm like, well, hold on. How many babies have you saved? None, right? And it's one of these things where if you focus on those things, if you focus on the traditional marriage issue, you're not going to get anybody to vote for you. I can't tell you how many fiscal conservatives said, I'm voting for Obama because Mitt Romney scares me. Mitt Romney, of all people, scares me.
And he doesn't scare anybody.
And so when you start focusing on the social conservative issues, you lose.
But you've heard
that's all there is. That's all there is to it.
And you've heard me say this about Republican candidates for any kind of office before, where I've said, look, Doc and I'll have these conversations where Doc, well, what do you think about this policy? This guy isn't so. You could agree with this, right? We need to make things easier for business owners, and we'll have a conversation about it. And I'll say, look, at the end of the day, even if I did agree with Republican policies at this point, and this is my honest opinion, I still have a fear. Well, I still have an apprehension about voting for any Republican because I feel like the Republican Party is being held hostage by this wing that wants to turn that, and this is hyperbolic and I apologize, wants to turn the country into some sort of Christian theocracy. That's what, and that's sort of like my hyper sort of, anti-religious kind of knee-jerk reaction to it. And I'm not saying that's rational.
But I'm going to tell you the fiscal conservatives that
it's a similar kind of reaction.
That the people that the Republicans could get into their tent to get them victories nationally are the very same people who think exactly the way Blake thinks, and they're not liberals. They sit there and they go, I don't want to deal with this. And they don't use the terms Blake does, but they talk about, this isn't my issue. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that whatever kids I do have, that I don't abort, have enough to eat. I want to make sure that I have enough money to send my kids to school. Do I really care if the neighbors next door are lesbians? I don't want to see it out in the front lawn, and as long as it's in their house, I don't care.
And they don't want to see a heterosexual couple, and you all four of you would be arrested. But if that was going on in the front yard.
Well, I would be arrested just by being in the front yard.
I guess and we're getting a little bit away from the shutdown of the government, but it's all going to come back together. I promise you guys, we're going to bring it all back together before we move on to another thing. I guess when it comes to and you're right, and they would bring more people. But what is fascinating to me about the whole issue is not only do Republicans, because of this inner fighting they have, lose interest and votes from people who they might be able to grab with a more job-centric, fiscal-centric sort of policy position. But if they move towards that as a strategy, they don't. It's not just that the folks that aren't engaged in the fiscal money side, the social conservatives, drift away or get disengaged. They punish them. They punish them with primaries, and they punish them with cannibalizing campaigns against their own caucus members to whip them back into line. You don't see that necessarily, and you haven't seen that from the liberals since at least the late 60s, early 70s, when the liberal movement was a lot more radical in its union and environmentalist sort of causes and radical anti-government protests against the Vietnam War. That has shifted almost entirely to the right wing of American politics.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I keep bringing up to people. Why crush the very people that are going to get crushed by the liberals? Why do that? I see it happening already on Facebook. I see it all the time. People are after Mitch McConnell. Well, I don't like Mitch McConnell much either, but there's a practical reality to trying to get something through the Senate. And he keeps trying to tell the Congress, the House of Representatives, listen, this is what you have to have. Otherwise, it's dead on arrival here. Yep. Well, now suddenly you got Steve Dace calling him Ditch McConnell and all this other stuff without, and that generates great ratings for Steve, but it doesn't do anything for the Republican Party.
Well, and folks like us in the media and Mr. Dace, who I've never had the opportunity. Well, we met him once, but never had the opportunity to discuss these kinds of things with him. We're not out getting votes. We don't care.
No, and that's the problem.
So they should start listening.
The ones getting votes for him.
They start listening more to the people who actually vote. Not that Steve Dace doesn't vote, but
I get it. Yeah. And so then right after this longer break, we're going to talk about this schism and how it's hitting local politics. We're going to talk about Doug Gross versus Steve King, which in my opinion is not a David versus Goliath, but much more like my foot stomping on an ant. All right, because Steve King is unstoppable in his home district, and that's just all there is to it. So I don't know. Plus, he's entirely popular, so I don't know quite sure why they're starting this fight. We'll be back right after the break. Please stay tuned. Webcast1live.com or listen to Doc and Lefty right here every Tuesday, 6 to 7 p.m.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the second half hour of the Doc and Lefty program. So I want to thank all of our sponsors once again. Really do appreciate what they do for us and keeping our studio up and running, and our producer, Ryan, in fine furs and caviar. So, Doc, coming back from this break, we're talking about how thank you very much. We're talking about how the schism in the Republican Party, like, it really affects a lot of things. And you're seeing it play out in this issue about funding the government or defunding Obamacare, and social issues versus fiscal issues and winning elections. And what it seems to me, the resounding theme that all this devolves to is principles versus results. It feels to me that especially in 2006, in 2008, in 2010, you saw a lot of very, very quote unquote bona fide conservatives win these primaries only to get their clocks cleaned by very vulnerable Democrats. We would not have Minority Leader Harry Reid if the less rabidly conservative person had won her primary in Nevada, rather than the person who actually won and lost terribly to Harry Reid in that election. So principles versus results. We've talked about it before, but in the context of the schism with funding the government and local politics, we see it again. Well, Doug Gross, Steve King.
And I think, at some point, the Republican leadership has to step forward and say, listen, not everybody's going to fit underneath our tent, and we can't be the party to everybody. And we can't keep kowtowing to people from Doug Gross all the way over to Steve Dace, all the way over to me. We have to make sure that we can approach the broadest base possible. The best example of this is Hispanics. If you look, and we've discussed this before, I have said over and over, why do we have the immigration system we have? It punishes anybody that wants to come and work in the United States and live in the U.S. This is what we were built on, right? Immigration. But yet we stick wholeheartedly to only 5,000 visas a year and create this problem. And if you look at Hispanics, they're almost a single issue voting block. But if you look at everything else they believe, it matches up pretty close to what the Republican platform is. Doug Gross this weekend got on WHO TV, and I should have sent you the video, Ryan, about what Doug Gross said. But basically, he said, "I'm sick and tired of Steve King. He says a lot of things that are offensive. He alienates a lot of our voting base, and he's sick and tired of it, and is basically saying Republicans really should start reevaluating who they elect and have people that represent them better." Well, the problem is now anybody that doesn't know about Doug Gross, he was a lawyer. I think he's from Sioux City, and he ran Governor Branstad's campaign way back when, and was very good at it. Was his chief of staff, I believe, during his entire administration, and he was key in getting a lot of good things that Governor Branstad did passed way back when. The problem is Doug Gross has really never really liked the Christian conservatives. He didn't mind fiscal conservatives, but I think social issues and the conservatives there has really irked him. He hasn't come out and said that directly, but you can tell by his remarks that he's not the social conservative that some other Republicans are. And especially this shot at Steve King, I think is completely unnecessary totally out of the blue, especially since I'm not sure he's running for anything.
Not anything except his own seat in 2014.
Yeah.
Or Doug Gross.
What?
Who, Doug Gross or Steve King? Who are you talking about?
No, Doug Gross. He's not running for anything.
I have no idea.
And so, because I did a Google search today and looked up his name, I don't see anything, Doug Gross for Congress, House, whatever. So I think this is just another one of these things where further escalates a schism between the fiscal conservatives and the moderates, the social moderates. And
it's really strange to see the Republican Party not in lockstep. That was the feature of the 1980s and the 1990s. And I'm not so certain I know I can put my finger on where that all started to go down the tube, but it really has presented a problem, and it's made the Democrats look super organized by comparison. Which, I mean, what did Will Rogers? Was it Will Rogers? I can't remember. He said that he's not the member of any organized political party. He's a Democrat. It was one of those. It was one of those guys.
Things. Yeah, I think it was Will Rogers. So it's one of these things where, we're already in bad enough shape. We're having a hard enough time trying to get people together. It's on a county level. I mean, we talked earlier this year about the revolution, basically, about Steve Bierfeld getting kicked out of one of these county elections, and it's one of these things where why add more fuel to the fire? I know Doug Gross thinks he's important in Iowa politics. He probably is. But to the general guy out there, general voter, they have no idea who he is. And the problem with Doug Gross is now the liberal media is doing exactly what it loves to do. Grab a Republican who's disgruntled, say, see, even their own people hate them, right? And now we got it all. It's, we got a 2-part series now. It's all over Facebook. It's, being run on YouTube over and over and over. And it's just insane. Why would Doug Gross do this at this moment? Well, and especially to Steve King, who is not ever going to lose his seat up there.
He's going to retire in it. But I guess, Doc, I don't know. Maybe it's an actual thing. I don't know if you were suggesting that the media is trying to hype something that isn't there, but I wouldn't consider us the liberal media, and yet we're still talking about two Republicans who seem like they hate each other, and two systems of republicanism that seems like they're in conflict with one another, and we're not trying to promote one agenda or another. So maybe it's a real split, and it's not being hyped by anybody.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. The Republican leadership at some point has to get together and say, listen, this is what our focus is going to be. And Governor Branstad generally stays out of peeing contests, which is what this is going to boil out into. Steve King apparently got on radio this morning at 10 o'clock and refuted it, but I haven't been able to find what he said anywhere. There hasn't been reported, so I don't know if it went off. But the bottom line is here you take a powerful congressman who's been mentioned by Obama on more than one occasion as his number one foe. And then you have Doug Gross saying, well, geez, that's not the kind of Republican we want. Well, I don't know about you. I may not agree with everything Steve King says. I may not agree with his grandstanding, but you know what? At least somebody's standing up to Obama. At least somebody's saying, hey, listen, we're not going to do that. At least from the Republican Party side. We have 18 senators that are not up for re-election, because I checked this out, and I may be incorrect on some of these. But we have 18 Republican senators who have signaled, well, we don't know if we're going to vote for this thing to defund Obamacare. You got to be kidding me. Where's the leadership there? Unbelievable.
Wait.
Well, look, we have to take a break. We'll get back right after this. Thanks for tuning in and listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Kitty's is the ultimate dance club in Des Moines. A huge dance floor with room to move, 3 bars to keep your drinks full, and kickin' DJs playing all your favorite dance music. At Kitty's, we've always got your birthday party planned with Birthday Fridays. That's right, when your birthday rolls around, there's only one place to go. Gather up your friends and head to Kitty's, where you drink free on the Friday of your birthday week. Find out more about Birthday Fridays at kittiesusa.com. Kitties, all kinds of people, all kinds of music, all kinds of fun.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We are in the home stretch, as it were, talking about the Senate Republicans that are not signing on to this. Now, Doc, to me, it looks like we've got some Senate Republicans that realize this thing's not going to go down. The president, if it passes Congress, the president will veto it. There's no way that something that was the heaviest lift of his entire 2 terms is going to go down in a defunding flame. So it looks like we have Senate Republicans saying, look, we're going to sit this one out. If you guys want to self-immolate, that's your business. We happen to like our jobs. Thank you very much. So, I mean, if you have political grandstanding on the part of House Republicans and political rear end saving on the House of Senate Republicans, that leaves the bill nowhere, right?
Well, but the thing is, if let's just take a step back. If the Republicans, when they won the House, had said, this is our plan to restore American health care, to keep it in the hands of the doctors and patients and take it out of the hands of the bureaucrats and come up with a sensible solution. I think Newt Gingrich had a pretty good solution. I think I had a pretty good solution. And then passed that and handed it straight to the Senate. They could have voted that down. And then they could have gone back and said, all right, well, let's try to get something else and vote that in. They could have done that 40 times. Send it up there. Now, there's 18 Republican senators that aren't up for re-election, which I find is, typical. And they're not sure they can vote for the House bill. Well, so what if let's say they vote it down? At least you gave it a shot, and at least you can point out the people on the Republican side who didn't vote for it and hang them at the next election, right? Let's say by some miracle it did pass, it goes up to Obama and he vetoes it. By this time, there is enough support, or anti-support, I should say, from unions that are unhappy with Obamacare, costing them jobs, costing them wages, costing them dues, costing them increased health care costs, costing them much more money to have these Cadillac healthcare plans. And Obama's own base that are starting to talk about, well, hold on, this is really impacting the little guy. Maybe by that time you could get 3 or 4 Democratic senators to go, yeah, we can defund this. The bottom line is Congress has bypassed its obligation to fund the government, to come up with a budget on a repeated basis, and this falls squarely on John Boehner, squarely on the Republican leadership. There's no excuse. There's no banging around. Boy, I'd love to blame Obama on this one, but it's our fault, guys. And at least then you can get it up to the president. And if he vetoes it, then that's the way it is. You can still come up with something else. You can still vote to defund it. And from what I understand, they come up with a budget. The Senate has to approve it, right? Or does the Senate even have to approve a budget?
That's a good question.
See, because I should have looked that question up earlier.
I don't remember, but thanks for calling me out on that one. I'm supposed to be.
I saw you playing with your iPhone over there.
I had to look something up really quick, and I didn't look that up, and really, folks, you don't come here for the journalism. You come here
just
for the
entertainment.
You come here for the hot air that doesn't get too much up in your cereal. Anyway,
absolutely.
Here a question that I have to you. So I was checking out that letter from the Teamsters. Well, the Teamsters side onto it about the 30-hour provision, saying, hey, this is a problem for our workers because a lot of people's hours are getting cut or laid off or whatever. Here's my question. So that was sort of a sally to the smaller businesses saying, hey guys, you can support Obamacare because we're going to give you this opt-out if you have part-time workers, so it's not going to cost you that much money, don't worry about it. And that's what got the Chamber of Commerce sort of provisionally interested way back in 09. But you can kind of sense that, yeah, that's an issue that could create an incentive for people to hire maybe more part-time workers and get rid of health care for everybody that they have on payroll. So if I'm a congressperson and I notice that after it's been passed, just like every other law in the books, why don't I propose a simple amendment to it rather than say, let's blow up the whole thing? You know why? It's because if the Affordable Care Act works, and if it does, and we don't know if it will or not because it hasn't been fully implemented yet, states with blue governors are seeing their health care premiums go down. California, New York, and all these places where the governor is actually implementing it the way that it's supposed to be implemented. In red states, it's not going to work. It's not working so well. Here's my question to you, or here's my point, and I want to see what your reaction is to it. If the Republicans had said, rather than uniform, complete, and total opposition to the law as it is, to prevent the president from getting probably the biggest political win of any president in the modern history of the country by reforming healthcare in a positive way that helps people and preserves a private system, which is kind of what Obamacare was intended to do. Rather than help him achieve that, they've picked this other sort of scorched earth policy. Rather than pick that scorched earth policy and sort of trying to tinker within it, meddle, and come up with some good fixes, then they could take credit for it. Why not do that? Doesn't that make more sense?
Well, and that's Lefty got me on this one because I have said that for a decade. Why aren't the Republicans in there coming up with a plan? And I don't have the answer to that. I really don't.
Well, I presented my answer is because they want to. It's all politics. They want to prevent him from having a political win. Do you agree with that or not?
But the political win is over and done. He's already won it. He won it by getting people to vote for it that can't read, that didn't read the bill. That's how he won it. Now, Lefty
just like the Patriot Act, but I mean,
Lefty spewed out a lot of crap that isn't true. I mean, I will tell you, this thing is a disaster for all doctors. We're losing doctors at record rates. We have people that, we talked several times about how insurance rates are skyrocketing and reimbursement to doctors are getting cut in half. And that isn't just in the blue or in the red states. It's in the blue states as well.
Check it out. Health insurance.
I was just checking it out last 2 weekends in a blue state.
Health insurance premiums in New York and California are going down.
Yeah, but great. Even if it was free, you still need to be able to go see a doctor. And doctors aren't accepting this. They're not joining medical schools like they had. They're not accepting anything. There are a lot of practices that are going cash only. I think 3 years ago, there was one practice on the south side that accepted cash only. And now there's 8 practices and throughout Des Moines that are accepting cash only.
Okay, so then why not work together to fix that? But it's easy to fix problems once the bill has been passed because you don't have the huge political lift of passing an omnibus bill.
But the bill was already written and is a terribly written bill.
Is it written in stone?
Well, but yeah, because we can't defund it. We can't do anything with it. Every time the Republicans come up with some kind of amendment for it, it gets shut down. I mean, Mitch McConnell has shut down every time that we've had an amendment to Obamacare. I honestly believe that the Republican leadership is in bed with Obama, not literally, but figuratively. Now, unfortunately, we have to take a break, and we're going to be back in a minute. But I do think that we ought to record this segment. All right. So we'll be back in a bit. You're listening to Doc Lefty on webcast1live.com.
Petrosian Associates, how can I help you?
Petrosian Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back, everybody. Just like every other conversation that Doc and I have about the healthcare law, it devolves into petty name calling during the break. And I just got done crying in the bathroom, but I'm back now, ready to go. I guess I'm not so into arguing the point by point problem, because here's my big beef with talking to conservatives about the healthcare law. And I'm going to give you a very, very jaded, stereotypical, very unfair example of a conversation that I have with a lot of conservatives, okay? Hey, conservative friend of mine, we're going to call him Schmachter Schmerschmosh. Just kidding. No, seriously though. Hey, conservative friend of mine, we sure could use healthcare reform, don't you think? Oh yeah, I completely agree. It's just the healthcare system is completely crazy. Well, what do you think about a public option? That's terrible. It'll never work. Oh, okay, fair enough. What do you think about this system of exchanges that we set up to help trying to bend the cost curve down? That's terrible. It'll never work. Okay, fair enough. What if we have an individual mandate that the Conservative Heritage Foundation crafted 25 years ago to maybe force individual people to buy health insurance and take some of the pressure off their employers? No, that's terrible. It'll never work. Well, hold on, because now you're acting like a girlfriend who can't decide where she wants to go for dinner. What will work? Well, there's a lot of naysaying, not a lot of problem solving.
Well, and God bless them. The liberals at least come up with an idea, like not Clint Black. Geez, Lewis Black said one time, Washington Democrats and Republicans are really pretty entertaining because you have the party of no ideas versus the party of bad ideas. And that's really what it is. And I sit there and I think to myself, the healthcare reform is simple. The problem is you don't have people in Congress that understand the healthcare system. Now, I have a great respect for Blake's intellect. He doesn't know jack squat about the healthcare system.
That is absolutely true.
And he thinks he does occasionally, but he doesn't. During the break, we were arguing, shouting, yelling, name calling. You know, he was crying.
Making me cry.
Ryan came out and held him. And I went, I thought you were against gay marriage. And Ryan said, well, this really isn't gay. And I thought,
it was a tender moment between two human beings.
Yes. So the bottom line is, like I was telling Blake, it'd be like him going to his law practice, working for an hour, and then having to go down to the medical clinic and see patients, trying to figure out, well, is that an ear infection? Is that a sinus infection? What's going on? And then going back and working for an hour.
I'd still crush it.
Yeah, you would. And then, well, you might, because our typical liberal just care about yourself and nobody else, which is completely untrue. So anyway, but that's what it's like. That's what it's like for a physician. We don't know anything about bureaucracy or fighting our way through it. Yet lawyers all the time, that's what they're used to. That's what they do. This is a poorly written bill. The Republicans have shot themselves in the foot with this, have missed opportunity after opportunity to come up with a solution and a plan. And you know what? I'm going to give President Obama and the liberals some kudos for getting something done. Now, they may have made the condition worse. I believe it's worse. Blake's right. We don't know how bad it's going to get.
Or if it's going to get bad at all.
It's already terrible. The bottom line is Republicans haven't ever come up with anything. Here's something that I talk about quite a bit. Iowa has the lowest reimbursement rate of anybody in the U.S. That includes Guam. That includes Washington, D.C. That includes Puerto Rico. Now, both of our senators, long-term senators, Grassley and Harkin, have said we're going to look into why we get such low reimbursement. You know what? I have told them both face to face. The reason you're getting poor reimbursement is the way they calculate living expenses and everything else. Iowa has one of the lowest living expenses in the country. We're very efficient at our health care. Therefore, we're punished, right? That's the DRG system, the GRE system, and another system that they come up with. It is absolutely phenomenal how these people, a conservative and a liberal, ignore exactly what's going on. And that's what happens in Congress. The problem with healthcare reform is you have people that do not understand it trying to reform it. They don't take, it's just like the governor's healthcare plan. Not a single clinical physician was asked what their opinion was. None. I have talked to most of them here in Des Moines. Nobody was asked by Michael Buslow or the governor or anybody on the commission what it was. And that's what the problem is. Now we have this healthcare system that we're going to be stuck with. Hospitals are closing around the nation. People losing their jobs over it. People getting taxed extra on their healthcare accounts. It's just insane. It's one of these things where the Republicans have an opportunity to stand up, say this is really how it should have been. Sorry, we've been asleep, but they haven't done it.
So you said earlier, and we only have a couple minutes left, but this should be easy. You said earlier that healthcare reform was simple. That reforming the healthcare system was simple. So, what would you do? How would you fix it?
Well, I got a text from a listener.
Oh, good.
A family practitioner. And she says, I am a family physician. I do not have any patients who have lower costs because of Obamacare. I wish people like Lefty would talk to my patients. That might be good for you. Have you come into my office, spend a week talking to these people, how they're getting shafted. Because not only, I've already said this, not only does Obamacare shaft them, but our old governor just got done shafting them. I'm seeing people for free because of the way this is set up now. Medicare patients are really getting nailed. And she has a picture and I can't download it. So
that's okay.
But anyway,
I guess in response to your friend, I mean, my own personal family physician is seeing people come in with their rates going down. So if she wanted to talk to my physician, that'd be good too. These sorts of, and this is the problem. This is the problem, or one of the problems. These sort of piecemeal anecdotal stories.
Well, but the piecemeal anecdotal stories is what got Obamacare passed in the first place. So it's good enough to get Obamacare passed, but it's not good enough now. It's not good enough now to get
evidence.
Back?
What got Obamacare passed in the first place was the skyrocketing cost of healthcare.
Well, what got it passed in the first place is people voting on it, not even reading it. I mean, people didn't even read it. They didn't even have time to read it. Well, we got to pass it before we know what's in it.
Didn't have time to read it. They debated it for 9 months. Didn't have time.
Well,
we had a whole season of town halls.
You had 20,000 pages of stuff you had to read. It isn't just the 2,000 pages.
Boo-hoo. They have people they pay on their staffs to read this for them.
So you want these people not to read the stuff, just have the staff tell them what's in it?
That's how.
I understand. This is just ridiculous. The way the government works, the way the Republicans work, the way the Democrats work, and frankly, I'm fed up with all of it. Everybody out there should be voting libertarian. That's just what I'm going to say.
He's out. He's out, everybody.
I'm so tired of ineffective leadership on one side or the other. I mean, if you guys had Jimmy Carter, we had George Bush. At least George Bush understood basic financial stuff. And he had, compared to Jimmy Carter. Oh man. Well, we got to shut this episode off because man, I'm hot under the collar and Lefty's going to be crying. That's all there is to it.
He doesn't like it when I snicker at him. I apologize, folks. Hey, folks, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We've had a lot of, we've really enjoyed the conversation between ourselves like we always do. There's nothing more fun than listening to two guys without any real power bicker to each other over the radio.
We don't bicker. We're actually trying to solve problems and come to a consensus.
Fair enough.
It's just that Lefty, like all liberals, just wants it his way and will cry if he doesn't.
It's true. And Doc's way is the one-way ticket to, anarchy and social complete destruction. So thank you very much. Thank you for all our sponsors. Really appreciate it. Thanks to my co-host, Pat Petrosh. My name is Lefty. We'll see you here next week. Same time, same channel, webcast1live.com. Good night, everybody.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.